Well, good morning. It's great to be back at the Neshoba County Fair. Always wonderful to be here and be with my friends here. I want to tell you a quick story first today that I hope will lay the foundation for the point I want to make today. I want to tell you a story about a man named J. Gresham Machen. J. Gresham Machen was one of the nation's leading theologians. He lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He was a professor at Westminster Seminary and then at Princeton Seminary. Now, if you think back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, what was going on in our country, our nation experienced a tremendous amount of cultural changes. We had the Industrial Revolution. We had inventions that were made that made life easier for Americans. Material wealth increased. The Roaring Twenties were on the horizon, and life became easier for a lot of Americans. As a result of this, many Americans decided they didn't need God or the church anymore. Life was easier. They didn't need God. So church membership declined. Obviously, church leaders were concerned about this, so they began to try to find ways to draw people back to the church. Sadly, in order to appeal to the culture, they watered down religion. They made it more appealing. Many churches abandoned the foundations of the Christian faith. They became derelict in their mission, and they ceased to be light in the darkness. This movement came to be known within the church as liberalism. And it was into this environment that J. Gresham Machen waged a very valiant and courageous fight against the rising tide of liberalism. He had a passion for the truth. He had a passion to fight for what was really important, even though the culture was pushing against him. And exactly 100 years ago, this year, 1923, he published a landmark book called Christianity and Liberalism. And in this book, he called on the church to stay true to its mission, to stay true to the foundations that made the church strong, and not to cave in to the culture. In that book, he said something that made a profound impact on me. He said, "The things upon which men are agreed are apt to be the things least worth holding. But the really important things are the things about which men fight." Those words made an impact on me. The really important things are the things about which men fight. I feel like we're experiencing the same kind of fight today that Machen did 100 years ago. Liberalism is pushing in all around us. It seeks to attack the very foundations that made this country strong. It seeks to attack the family unit. It seeks to influence our children. It seeks to introduce socialism and communism into our country. It seeks to silence the conservative voice. It seeks to threaten our freedoms and undo our society. So we need people like J. Gresham Machen who are not afraid to fight for the things that are important. For the last 12 years, it's been my privilege to serve with this kind of people. I'm talking about the men and women of the Mississippi House of Representatives. Many of them are standing around here today. I would like for them to raise their hand or stand. If you are a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives for the last 12 years, please acknowledge yourself. I want y'all to take note of who these people are. Let me tell you what these men and women have done for you over the last 12 years. First of all, they have led the fight to protect our women and children. We passed a human trafficking law that is now being hailed as model legislation across the country. It is the nation's leading model in the fight against human trafficking to protect our women and our children. They passed a law that says if you're a boy, you can't declare yourself a girl and go compete against girls in high school athletics. They passed a law that said we in the state of Mississippi are not going to allow financial interests to come in and perform transgender surgeries on our children here in the state of Mississippi. These men and women have led the fight for religious freedom. They passed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which says the government cannot come in and tell you how you must conduct your religious worship. They passed House Bill 1523. House Bill 1523, which says If you're a business owner and you believe that marriage is between one man and one woman, the government can't come in and criminalize that and fine you and prosecute you because you operate on a traditional view of marriage. These men and women that just raised their hand, they have led the fight to protect our families. We made adoption more efficient and effective and affordable. We made our foster care system reformed so that more children can get the experience of a loving family. We passed tax credits for our pregnancy resource centers. There are 37 pregnancy resource centers in this state which exist for the purpose of helping women who find themselves with an unplanned pregnancy and who want to go forward and choose life rather than abortion. We passed a tax credit in support of those people. And in further support of the families, these men and women passed the largest income tax cut in the history of the state of Mississippi to put more money in the pockets of our families so they can raise their children and improve their quality of life. These men and women have led the fight to improve education. Our graduation rate is 11% higher today than it was 12 years ago. We are now at or above the national average. These men and women passed the third grade reading gate, which says if you're a third grader, you have to read like a third grader. What a novel idea. How dare we expect a third grader to read like a third grader? And when we passed this bill, you would have thought the sky was falling, that the world was coming to an end. Prior to the passage of this bill, only 64% of third graders could read like a third grader. Today, it's over 90%. That has transformed education in this state. As a result of that, our fourth grade reading and math scores have been #1 in the country for the last 2 years. We also gave the largest teacher pay raise in the history of the state. A teacher today makes $15,000 more than he or she did 12 years ago. Some studies have shown that Mississippi is moved from 50th to 35 in this country in education. We are no longer last in education in the state of Mississippi. These men and women have been good stewards over your tax dollars. We made a pledge that we would not spend more money than we have, that we would have a balanced budget every year. As a result, this state is in the best financial shape it's ever been in. We have a balanced budget every year for the last 12 years. We've never spent more than we have to spend. The rainy day fund is full. We've spent record levels on roads and bridges and on education. As I said, we've given the largest teacher pay raise and the largest tax cut in the history of our state. We still have money in the bank, and we did all of this without issuing any more debt on the taxpayers' back of the state of Mississippi. So yes, we are in the best financial shape in the history of our state. And this same bunch of Republicans that just raised their hand, they've been untiring champions for the pro-life cause here in the state of Mississippi. I think I counted 6 pro-life measures that we passed over the last 12 years. And one day back in 2018, this same bunch of legislators that just raised their hand, they passed House Bill 1510, which said we would no longer allow abortions in this state after 15 weeks. And what happened was that bill worked its way all the way to the United States Supreme Court and was the bill that overturned Roe versus Wade. And it all started in the Mississippi House of Representatives right here in the state of Mississippi. And it happened because we chose to stay in the fight. We chose to fight for the things that were really important. Like Mackin said, we did not grow weary of doing good. We stayed in the fight. This is just a small sampling of some of the great things that these men and women have done for you over the last 12 years to move Mississippi forward. And I have been proud to have the privilege to serve with them. And they have set the example of what leadership looks like. And our national leaders would do well to follow this example. Sadly, however, I don't think that's the case. Like you, I don't have confidence that our national leaders are doing all they can to move our country forward and to fight for the things, as Mackin said, that are really important. Where are the leaders who are trying to stop the out-of-control spending that we see in Washington? I have a 6-month-old grandson, born 6 months ago. That boy stepped into this world with $94,000 of debt on his head because of the out-of-control spending in Washington, D.C. While we have gotten the state debt level down to the lowest it's been since 2013, the debt level in Washington has doubled. While America stagnates, the Chinese economy has grown 8 times faster than our economy. Why do our national leaders not secure our borders? What have they done to prevent the illegal immigration in this country? As a result, the number of people in this country who were not born here has doubled since 1990. What about religious freedom? I just talked to you about some of the things we've done to protect your religious freedom. Do you feel like your religious freedoms are under attack in this country? What are your national leaders doing to protect your religious freedoms? What are they doing to push back against the woke agenda that we see? What are they doing to push back against socialism and communism? What are they doing to push back against the cultural pressures that seem to be closing in around us? Ladies and gentlemen, leadership matters. Where are the leaders who are fighting for the things that are really important? We've got to start learning to tell the difference between real leaders and good politicians. Real leaders get results. Good politicians just show up and enjoy the ride. The ultimate test is you will know them by their fruits. So we need people like J. Gresham Machen who are not afraid to fight for the things that are really important. And just as J. Gresham Machen was facing liberalism 100 years ago, so we are facing liberalism today. And just as J. Gresham Machen took a valiant stand to fight against liberalism, so we need leaders today who are willing to take a valiant stand and fight against liberalism. Ronald Reagan said, "Our decline is not inevitable. Our fate depends on what we do." So now is the time for strong leadership. The fate of your children and grandchildren hangs in the balance. We need to look for leaders who will fight for the things that are really important. And in the words of Winston Churchill, never give in, never give in. Never, 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 in anything great or small, large or petty, never give in. Thank you so much for letting me speak to you today.